So, you just bought an Apple HomePod Mini. Congratulations! But what do you do with this mysterious sphere? Do you shake it up and ask a question about your future? Outlook not so good. Do you buy a few more and use them to train yourself to juggle? No, you want something a little softer for your first time trying to juggle, and this is electronic and fragile. A smart speaker from Apple, in fact. I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know to get the most of it right now. Hi, I'm Andrew from Apt, and this is the Apple HomePod Mini, and this is a desk, you're the viewer. Thanks for being here. And now that we're all acquainted, let me tell you about this smart speaker. It's a $100 gadget available in 5 colors. It responds to voice commands. It plays music. It can control your smart home. It's nifty. That's the word I'm going with, in part because I just like the word nifty. If you bought this for yourself, I'm gonna go over everything you need to know to make the most of it. If you bought this as a gift, I'll walk through the basics and the setup and some things it works well with if you want to make it part of a particularly perfect pack of proffered paraphernalia. In order, I'm talking about basics, setup, highlight features, advanced features, and smart home stuff. Yes, I'll talk about how to play music on this speaker. I'm calling all of that a highlight feature. And I'll talk about what you need to know if you're still making a buying decision, but only briefly. This video is mostly for you, you owner of pods, both home and mini. Check out the time codes below if you're looking for something in particular, and let's dive in. The basics. The HomePod Mini is actually the second smart speaker from tech giant Apple, the same company that makes the iPhone and the iPad and the iMac makes this. Other than the name and the shape, it is unrelated to a certain spherical piece of fruit. The company's first smart speaker was just called the HomePod. It was $300, it's been discontinued. This does all of the same stuff in a smaller and cheaper package. You plug it in, connect it to your Wi-Fi, and then you can use it to play music. It responds to voice commands. You can control your smart home. For the most part, you will control it with your voice through Apple's built-in digital assistant by saying this phrase. I'm not gonna say it so I don't accidentally wake your speakers, but there it is. The top, though, is touch sensitive. So you can tap once to play or pause music, double tap to skip a track, you can triple tap to go back a track, or touch and hold to access that same voice assistant. You can also use these volume buttons on the side to control the volume. And at any volume, it sounds good, especially compared to, you know what, let's talk about how it stacks up to the competition real quick in case you're still making a buying decision, but I'm gonna challenge myself to do this quickly, tell you everything you need to know in 60 seconds or less, unscripted. We call this briefly before you buy. Ready? Go. Okay, so you have a lot of Bluetooth speakers out there, obviously. The big difference between this one and most is that it's smart, and its most direct competition is the Amazon Echo Dot and the Nest Mini. Both of those are smart speakers from Amazon and Google respectively. They have smarts built in, they control the wider smart home. The advantage that those have is that they're cheaper. This tends to be 100, those tend to be 50, and those go on sale all the time. Their assistants are also a little bit smarter, and they tend to work with more smart home devices. So that's a lot of advantages. But if you have an iPhone or an iPad and you're already set up with kind of an Apple household, these are very strong devices and they sound great. They have this 360-degree computational audio, and Apple Smart Home is starting to work with more things. There's some cool tricks you can do with other Apple devices, which I'll talk about more later. So this is a strong one if you have an Apple household to consider for your buying decision. Done. Now that you have your HomePod Mini in hand, let's get it set up. If you have an electrical engineer in the family, or maybe an astrophysicist, now is the time to call them over and then tell them to go away, because you totally got this. Also, apologize on my behalf if I just interrupted something important for them. like one of those typical household electrical engineering astrophysicist tasks that they're always doing. And seriously, Apple has neatly streamlined the process here. Find the spot where you want it, perhaps next to a real roaring fire, and plug it in. Give it a hot sec to boot up, and you'll hear a chime and see a white pulsing light. Then just unlock your iPhone and hold it next to the speaker. The iPhone will prompt you to center the HomePod in the camera. You'll go through some settings prompts, connect to your Wi-Fi, and that's it. Most of the process is automated, and yes, you can use an iPad for this as well if you prefer. But if the fickle gods of technology find it fitting to foil your first foray, if something goes wrong, don't get flustered. You can set up the HomePod Mini manually if the automatic stuff doesn't work. Just find this app on your phone called the Home app. Make sure it and your phone are up to date. You'll notice the option to add a device in the Home app here that can start the manual process. You can use that same app to make sure your HomePod is up to date when you are good to go, though it should automatically update after the initial setup. And there you go. You're up and running, so let's talk about the good stuff. The biggest and best features, the music! Dance break! Man, I do love dancing to whatever royalty-free track we've got going in the background. Woohoo! If you want your own dance party to possibly even rival this one, lofty as that goal may be, good news, you can use your smart speaker. You can play music with a voice command. You can use your phone to start a track on your HomePod. You can even do this cool handoff thing. Or transfer it right back when you're ready to hit the road again. Hey Siri, play Moonlight Sonata, Third Movement by Beethoven.
Now playing Moonlight Sonata Third Movement by Igor Kotlyarevsky.
Ooh. The HomePod Mini comes with 6 months of free Apple Music, which is the company's first-party service and the easiest to use with their stuff. It also supports lossless audio for an extra boost in quality for the audio files. But the HomePod does work with some third-party services. Not Spotify, unfortunately. You can do a Spotify workaround, but not natively, so you can't make it your default service or pull up a song from Spotify with a voice command, but Pandora does work. So your HomePod can be set to automatically play music from that service as long as you do a little finagling at setup to sync the service and set it as your default. While setting up, you can also set profiles for every member of your family as long as you only have 6 in your family. If you have more, leave out one of the middle kids, the weird one. You know the one I'm talking about.
Hey!
You'll send an invite using the Home app, and then they can set up profiles on their own phones and even train the HomePod to recognize their voice. Then, when they ask for their playlists or play something new age and funky, it won't mess with your preferences for just straight electronic dance music. This is all assuming you don't have any of those crazy Android people walking around your house, walking around, blending in. You might not even know they were deranged. Let's not focus on my personal phone of choice. Anyone can play a song with a voice command, even the crazy Android people, but if you don't want those songs showing up in your history, you can turn off listening history on the HomePod Mini entirely right here in the settings menu. Anyone can also use voice commands to ask trivia questions, command compatible smart home devices, set timers or alarms, ask about the weather or the news. Apple has sound canceling microphones built in to help you hear better over background noise. And Apple's Assistant can understand and help with a large variety of searches and commands. It's pretty smart. I mean, it's not smarter than me.
Hey Andrew, how far away is the sun from the Earth?
100,000, a million miles.
Hey Siri, how far away is the sun from the Earth?
The average distance between Earth and the sun is 92,958,412 miles.
Dang it, I was close. Of course, you get more features once your iPhone is connected. Let's dive into that advanced stuff. Turn on personal requests in the app here. And then you can use your HomePod Mini to make a call or pick up a call. You can even dictate a text message and have Apple's assistant read it back to you before you send it to make sure pick up soup doesn't turn into flick off Sue. This all happens through AirPlay, which is Apple's way of sending music or video from compatible device to compatible device. That tech is what makes those sweet handoffs possible. Apple devices play well with other Apple devices. What a world. And actually, if you get more Apple devices, like let's say you have an Apple TV or another HomePod Mini, oh boy, things can get pretty exciting. For one, you can stack them and call it your Apple Stack. Why would you do this? I don't know. I can't read your mind. In terms of actual things, if you have multiple HomePod Minis, you can set them up to be a stereo pair for music playback. If you have an Apple TV, you can use your HomePods to play your TV audio and set up surround sound. You can make announcements from one HomePod to the next with an intercom feature. Say something like, "Intercom, I'm changing my name to Frank." And then Apple will repeat the message on every HomePod Mini in your house connected to your account. So only those not in hearing range of one won't know how frank you are. If you have several HomePods, you can also say something like, "Announce upstairs," or "Ask the kitchen," using the name of the device you've set, and you can make an announcement to a specific HomePod instead of all of them. In case you only want a few family members calling you Frank, which frankly sounds like a good idea, they can also respond by saying, "Reply, Frank, my dear, I don't give a damn." There is no mute button here, but you can ask the digital assistant to stop listening with a voice command, and Apple puts a random identifier on all commands you make, instead of associating them with you and your search history. So a few privacy nods and a lot of fancy stuff packed into this small sphere. And I'm not done with the advanced features. You can also have it pause your music automatically when your iPhone leaves the vicinity. Now I'm done. Let's talk smart home. I mentioned that you can control gadgets with a voice command. That's true. I wouldn't lie to you. I enjoy being frank. And you might be surprised by how much you can do. With the right devices, you could turn on the living room lights. You could control one specific lamp or everything in your house. You could arm your security system. You could shut the garage door. You can turn up the temperature of your smart thermostat with a voice command without ever needing to leave the cozy nest of blankets on your couch. You can even control outdoor gadgets like smart sprinklers to extend the circle of influence of your sphere of smarts to your corner of the great outdoors. How do you do all of this, you might ask? Good question. You need compatible smart devices. Lighting is actually a really good place to start. Think bulbs or plugs for lamps, or replace the actual switches in the wall and you can control overhead lights and fixtures very easily. I've linked to a handful of options below. One key thing to look for: your device needs to be compatible with HomeKit. It'll likely say that right on the box or the specs page on the site of the product. It does not need to be made by Apple, which is handy because other than the HomePod Mini, Apple doesn't make smart home devices. But they did make HomeKit. HomeKit is Apple's smart home software. It lets the speaker talk to the thermostat, and the thermostat talk to the garage door, and helps them all arrange a tea party for weekends when you aren't around, a la Toy Story. HomeKit also generally lets you set up those devices using the same home app you saw earlier, and you can arrange your devices into what's called rooms, so you can turn off all kitchen lamps, for example, with a single voice command. The Home app also lets you set up what's called scenes. So, with a single command like "I'm going to bed," your lights will turn off, your thermostat will turn down, and your doors will lock. You can also set up automations, another thing, which are designed to trigger on certain established conditions. Say you get home with your phone in tow instead of a spoken command. So you can turn on the lights, turn off the sprinklers, and open the garage door when you pull up into your driveway. These smart home possibilities are cool. And again, you'll need to do some setup within the Home app, but then you should be able to control compatible devices to your heart's desire with a turn of phrase to your digital helper. It's nifty stuff, but one other key thing to keep in mind with smart home stuff: start small. Don't try to automate everything all at once. Buy 1 or 2 devices, make sure you like them and are comfortable using them, and then move on to the next. But soon, you should be able to put together a functional DIY smart home with the HomePod Mini at its center just by buying gadgets compatible with HomeKit and setting them up in the Home app, and then you can invite that braggy neighbor over and show off and force them to run away whimpering at the sheer might of your technological prowess. That's the key to being a good neighbor, right? The assertion of dominance? Speaking of dominance, Apple really dominates the smart home category in terms of privacy. They kind of use a walled garden system with certifying stuff before it's allowed access to HomeKit, and generally speaking, HomeKit devices will process as much stuff locally or without pinging the cloud as possible, and devices only pass info to each other in case of specific requested automations. All of that is handy. It does mean you need a hub to be able to control stuff remotely, but you have one of those. It's this. And it used to mean Apple had a much smaller variety of devices to pick from compared to Google and Amazon's smart home, but that's improving. It's a good thing. I mean, I'm excited. It's time for one of Andrew's happy rants. Matter, not what's a matter, just Matter. It's this new smart home communication protocol thing. It lets Apple devices talk to Google devices, talk to Amazon devices. It's really neat. And it should let the smart home as a whole work more seamlessly in the background, so you don't even need to worry about checking if something is HomeKit compatible in the future. If it's smart home related at all, you should just be able to look at it and go, hey, this is neat, and buy it, and it'll work with what you already have. Now, Matter just launched this fall, so for now, you're still better off being careful that you're buying HomeKit devices. But Matter is live now, and it's being built out now, and tons of big companies are already on board. I mentioned Apple and Google and Amazon, also Samsung, Philips Hue, Nanoleaf, Legrand, Schneider, Lutron, Kroger, so many huge names in tech, and Kroger for some reason. And the idea is that your HomePod Mini will just be able to control your Amazon Smart Plug or your Ring doorbell without any extra hassle or setup on your part. And this greatly increases the number of devices that are compatible with your HomePod Mini, obviously, but again, it's new. I need to take a deep breath, and you should still check for HomeKit compatibility, at least for now. In short, if I had to pick one word to describe Matter, I'd go with nifty. But all of this is nifty. Voice commands, music, smart home controls, all via this magical device that, as it turns out, can actually do quite a bit more than a magic 8-ball. Hey, you know what else would be nifty? If you could hit those thumbs up and subscribe buttons. This is a brand new YouTube channel. Me and my old pal Carl worked for a store called Apt, which is a giant electronics retailer in Illinois. We've been doing electronic stuff for a while, so we wanted to make a channel dedicated to helping you get the most out of your gadgets. We've got links to accessories at our store below if you want to round out what the HomePod Mini can do, and we've got other videos that you can find right here-ish. If you have more questions about your HomePod that I didn't cover, 1, I'm shocked. 2, let me know in the comments below and I'll be happy to help. Again, like and subscribe if you would, and thanks for watching. Happy smart home.